Starfield is a very controversial game. A lot of people hate it, and some people like it. Since it is recently on sale, and most gamers expect it to go on sale in the future as frequently as Bethesda can do, I thought it might be useful to do a dissection of this game to provide some insight for those who want to get this game at a discount. As a former game artist and hobby game design analyst, I would like to spend 1 minute to briefly set up a basic context. According to Wikipedia, Starfield is an action RPG. So what is an RPG? Let's start from the role-playing part. I tried to consult Wikipedia and found this article by Anders Teichson. It looks pretty reasonable, so I will use these criteria for this video. So here are the criteria. 1. Storytelling with rules. 2. Each player takes control of one or more fictional characters and uses as a vessel for interacting with the fictional game world. 3. The fictitious reality is established by a shared understanding of the game setting, the starting point of the game, the rules and similar framework properties. 4. The game will usually, but not consistently, be guided by a game master or a light. 5. The game will usually require at least one GM and one player. Okay, we need an even more brief segue about what is storytelling. Search results are many, but for time's sake I will just use this first one in the list. Storytelling is the interactive art of using words and actions to reveal the elements and images of a story while encouraging the listener's imagination. Good. That settles that. Now about the G in RPG. What is games? This is an even harder thing to define. I read some game design theory books, so I hereby will use the definition I personally find most succinct. It is from the book Designing Games, A Guide to Engineering Experiences. The gist of it is that games are engines of experiences. Here's a graph to illustrate that. But please read the book if you really want to be more rigorous. Having said all that, I'm not saying as gamers we need to know all the definitions to discuss a game. These are just for those who want to have a little more background about this review. So as a coward reviewer, I will appeal to the mainstream opinion by counting its sins first. I believe the famous criticism about its shallow world content is well grounded. I did some statistics comparing a trip between two interest locations in Starfield and a similar one in Skyrim. I divided the two trips by small events along the road, and I accounted the boring time and engaged time as some kind of metric. As you can see, according to the metrics I use, it seems Starfield really is not as engaging as Skyrim. Now the space exploration. This was a sell point they advertised a lot, so it has to be compared with some competitors in this field. I tried No Man's Sky, and I agree that being able to take off and land would have been a big bonus to Starfield. The subpar exploration part brings me to my second point, so back to the distribution of POI. So, if we arbitrarily categorize various POI into 3 levels, planet-moon level, system level, and galaxy level, I think the most obviously repetitive ones are on the planet level. Most of them are small settlements and caves with indistinguishable environmental components and props, probably because of the pool is too small, or the components are not modular enough. I agree with one popular suggestion of concentrating the contents. I think maybe if they somehow make most of the planets not landable like what Mass Effect games do, it would be easier. Then they can manually design some quote-unquote suburban POI. Those can distantly surround main large settlements and form a hub and spoke exploration structure. Like this, there can be some publicly built travel infrastructures, but players are also free to go on foot or by ship. But alas, they overmarketed the notion about every planet can be landed upon. Many players complain about boring side quests and their story plots. I did several of them. There's no doubt that these are discouraging. I believe you all saw many influencers who streamed about this too, so I will not elaborate it further here. A commonly debated flaw of Starfield is its lack of cinematic presentations. At least it was what I observed as a hot topic during the first month of its release. This is a totally valid argument because there is indeed very little acting like what Mass Effect did, or what Cyberpunk 2077 did. However, whether such things would have been good for every player is not that easy to measure. Besides cinematic performances, there is the big complaint about writing. But writing actually covers a wide range of creative activities. Among them, I already talked about cinematic shots and story plots, so I will just narrow down to their scripting in Starfield. As you can see from some dialogues, the scripts make us feel like the NPC don't have interesting personalities. And the main character even more so.
My partner is the strong and do what I say or else type. Yep. Ryujin likes to keep things simple for us.
They had this problem at least since Skyrim. In this aspect, Bethesda is crushed by other studios like Larian. However, some other people could argue that by filling in some details using our imagination, the characters can be more alive. So, referring back to the start of this video where we saw the criteria for RPG, this might make people think Bethesda don't make real RPG games. But the storytelling still exists, and there are some not so bad writing too.
The more proper question would be, is reality divine? Existence itself is a mystery which yearns to be uncovered.
If this were a choice between my life and Raphael's, I would ask you to save him. But as the director of the station, I am responsible for the lives of my staff. 30 people. People with families, careers, futures ahead of them. In this universe.
10 years working in aerospace engineering, and they laid me off. You're damn right I stole that thing. They tell you if you have talent and commitment, you can go far. But the truth is it's all about who steals the most and gets away with it.
So the feeling for this flaw can depend on personal preferences. Next, not being able to influence the world too much is a problem. For example, in this infiltration quest, they could have made variable outcomes like what Dishonored did. A more annoying example is that in the quest All for One, there is only one way to finish the quest.
I don't exactly know what you said to Dietrich, but he certainly turned everything around.
And sticks never actually get cleaned.
Yeah, you get it, Sticks.
Have a look for yourself. Had the paint cleaned up, some things smoothed out of his chassis, and even upgraded his firmware. All thanks to you.
Well,
Weirdly, sometimes there are indeed reactions about what we did. This is after I helped the kid put up some posters.
Not your own?
And we can choose what to do with the equipment stealer in Sidonia, and outcomes will be different. I am not sure what happened inside Bethesda. There's another objective bad I almost forgot to mention, the base building. But this one has been well demonstrated by private sessions. I myself feel the same way. So I guess I don't have to explain more. Anyway, I think this one is also partially caused by lack of component modularity. And the lack of incentive to build segments makes it even worse. Now, the least hardcore weakness, but most obnoxious one, their attitude. We all remember when they boasted about the 1,000 of planets.
From barren but resource-heavy ice balls to Goldilocks planets with life. And not just this system, but over 100 systems. Over 1,000 planets, all open for you to explore.
Alright, this is not the first time their spokesperson had done this. But after their over-marketing backfired, for some reason their PR people unanimously adopted passive-aggressive stance. They posted insincere apologies under popular negative reviews on Steam. It is almost like they are telling us we are playing it wrong. This is simply pathetic, in my opinion. One of the main designers' Twitter did not help either. I understand that Emil was trying to defend their developers, and I agree that frontline developers are usually the ones doing hard work, without the right to make final calls. But his wording and tone just strikes as condescending. Again, I don't want to assume what is happening inside Bethesda, but there is indication that they don't understand what players want in this pre-dystopia world. If they don't want to change their old way of managing products and media, please give their formula to someone else and let new people take over. Now let me pick some good aspects around this game. First of all, the attempt at making big changes is commendable. Not many established studios do this, and when they do, the new IP sometimes can be more unimpressive than Starfield. For example, Divinity 2 Flames of Vengeance, the first Watch Dogs. The Dark Pictures Anthology Man of Medan, The Order 1886, etc. I believe many gamers watch Gamer Ranks, so we know there are more of them. So, Starfield is a nice try at innovation. At the same time, they actually preserve some features of their formula. They did achieve the mixture of realism of NASA data and their space fantasy idea. They talked about the NASA punk art direction. The name is pretentious, but I think it is a combination of minimalism and space punk, which captured the theme of discovering the crazy unknown with a little trace of nihilism quite well. Secondly, the non-linear open-world part of the formula is alive and well. I can choose to sneak into Bayou's apartment without anyone telling me to, just because I hate this character but don't want to kill him, and I can also choose different dialogue options to flesh out my character's backstory.
You got the look of neon on you. I can tell. Neon tries its hardest to beat ambition out of us. But not you. You do things to survive in the gutter. Every now and then, the good bits. A shared meal, a kind gesture.
Some people might counter that by mentioning Cyberpunk 2077. But 2077 has very vocal and strongly guided narratives. Or people could say Mass Effect, but Mass Effect is a little too linear. There's no better and newer game that has the complete framework of Starfield, without combining with some other games. Logically, no one could deny that some of the procedurally generated planet environments are ugly, but the manually crafted ones do have pretty good graphics and visual design. Its outdoor lightings are not so good, but it has some solid indoor lighting designs, which is important for visual experience. A side note, lighting can severely affect visual impact, and I believe some professionals will agree with me on this.
Building new environments. But there's way more careers that use Unreal Engine than just environment artists. And even if you're building environments, you need to know how to shape the lighting in your scenes to show off all your hard work.
I must also mention the hard surface designs. They really appeal to equipment and machinery lovers.
You ask me, the real New Atlantis is down here.
To some untrained eyes, there might not be a lot of differences between hard surface design in Starfield and that in Halo, Destiny, Deus Ex, etc. And I will not go into visual design theories like rhythm, tension, color scheme. I will just say some players can enjoy looking at them. Starfield hard surfaces has its moderately special design philosophy that make them aesthetically pleasing and fit well into the overall philosophical theme of the game. Although this sentence only expresses my personal opinion. One of the most frequently praised systems of Starfield is its shipbuilding. I had fun with it but forgot to record any footage. However, there are abundance of footage of people enjoying it, so I think there is no need to expand on this here. Now this one is somewhat subjective, the weapons and gunplay. I know it is no comparison to those specialized FPS games like COD or Halo, but I personally feel that this system and the combat mechanics around it is much better than Fallout 4. Also, some players secretly like the jetpack shooting.
Many of the weapons in Starfield share ammo types.
Following the previous point, the cohesion between FPS and RPG lines is worth a brief mention. Starfield's dungeons, although dull, offer some useful loot that give players an idea of which weapons have what advantages. Personally, they make me want to loot more dungeons, upgrade weapons, and kill more enemies, and then, well, loot more dungeons. We would think a AAA game with FPS element should have this by default. But some AAA games still failed to deliver this on the first try.
Hook me as much on the RPG front as I...
Of course, I heard they fixed it now splendidly, and I'm going to try it when Phantom Liberty goes on sale. I discussed the bland writing in previous sections, but there are some other quests having pretty good story plots. For example, the quest Entangled. I have shown multiple relevant clips from my own playthrough. That is because I adore that quest story. There's also the UC Vanguard questline. There are some really good twists that hooked me, and I am not alone. Another example would be the All That Money Can Buy quest. I agree with that. It is absolutely no match to Cyberpunk 2077, but the culprit's final confession has a good satirical take reflecting the world on the Earth in our universe. I think this lends this quest a small but unique charm. If you are intrigued, here is a max enjoyment guide pointing out more good quests. Check it out if you decided to buy Starfield. Finally, they managed to preserve their environmental narrative approach. One example would be Slayton's quote-unquote mastermind plan. So there's a Slate recording his step-by-step plan to establish cooperation with Stroud Eklund. And apparently in some universes, his plan works. Beside that, there is the Colander. It is a dungeon that has really lovable environmental narrative. No character in-game gives any clue of its existence, at least none that I am aware of. And there are fragments of text here and there, requiring me to piece together what happened. The restored story is still mediocre, but this provides the narrative freedom that I have always loved. It reminded me of Vault 11 in Fallout New Vegas. All in all, this kind of narrative approach cannot be easily found in other products. Not novels, not movies, not detective games. It has to be interactive, and the Game Master has to be exactly as passive as this. The Game Master hands story pieces quietly to a player as a reward for pure curiosity. Wow, I can't believe someone made it to this point. Anyway, in conclusion, if you can tolerate the bad and enjoy the good, you can consider buying Starfield on sale. Finally, thanks for watching.